Good evening again, and I am going to call this meeting to order. It is 6:02 p.m. on Tuesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 2026. Council members present are Councilmember Shelton, Councilmember Lamb, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Jacob, myself, Vice Chair Wignall, and Chair Bobador is joining us remotely, and Chair Kayleen Whitlock is excused this evening. We have is Bob online, Alan? Okay. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Luke Mitchell will be doing Pledge of Allegiance for us this evening.
Will everyone please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will start with public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to address the council on any topic. The council typically doesn't engage in a back and forth, but may address your comments after the fact. Is there anybody present who would like to make public comment? No. Mr. Anderson, do we have anybody on the phone who would like to make public comment?
There is no one online who has raised their hand to speak this evening.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to business items. House Bill 236 passed in this year's legislative session and placed new requirements for taxing entities considering a property tax increase. The next 2 items on our agenda are required by this new legislation. We're required to have a separate business item stating that we intend to make a statement regarding a proposed tax increase. This item doesn't require any action by council. We have staff member Denise Steck. Okay, and our item B is resolution number 26-026, public statement on property tax increase, including the introduction of the property tax impact schedule for fiscal year 2027. Item 4B is the actual statement referred to in our last business item. I'll turn the time over to our Administrative Services Director, Denise Steck, and she will provide the statement and give us a presentation on the new property tax impact schedule, which we will accept by resolution number 26-026. This is only a resolution acknowledging the statement has been made and does not hold the council to anything in the statement.
Perfect, thank you. It's interesting, the legislature said you have to have 2 separate items. One says you intend to make a statement, and then the second one is that you make the statement. So thank you for following that legislative item. We are going to propose to you Resolution 26026, which will acknowledge that you'll receive this property tax impact statement. Excuse me. I've been authorized by the mayor as the budget officer to provide this property tax impact statement to you. We have provided the property tax impact schedule to you, and so I'm going to make the statement that West Jordan will consider an increase to its property tax rate to generate an additional $500,418. The information that's provided on the property tax impact schedule is intended to provide decision makers and the public with an explanation of how the city's operations would be affected if the property tax rate changes. So I'm going to do a short presentation just to make sure that we've covered all of our bases and you understand it. So given that we're considering the tax rate for 2027 and we're expected to exceed the certified tax rate, the proposed budget presented includes a property tax increase. We will be providing notice and conduct public hearings as required, where members of the public will have the opportunity to comment on the proposed increase. One public hearing will be on the tentative budget in June. We believe that will be June 9th. Am I right? Yeah, June 9th, as long as the council agrees with that date. And then we have been approved by Salt Lake County to hold our truth and taxation hearing on the tax increase on August 11th at 6 p.m. So that will be the date that we hold that meeting. The property tax impact schedule, the legislation is detailed and long. We believe that we've followed all of the steps that are required with this property tax impact schedule, with this meeting tonight. And then it is important for us to note that any time we discuss the budget here forward, whether it's in a work session or in a meeting, we'll be rebringing up the property tax impact schedule. So it's going to be on front of everybody's minds on a regular basis. We are requested in the legislature to set aside the revenue and not allow it to be spent on anything until the tax public hearing is complete on August 11th, and not just the public hearing, but then that you have actually adopted the budget, which is going to be scheduled for August 23rd. Oh, this is not right. 26th. 26th? What is it? So when we adopt the annual budget after the public hearing, so it's the meeting after August 11th. We are showing you here that this is how it's stated in your budget. There is a separate line for each property tax estimate that we're making, and that $500,000 is sitting on a line on its own and will not be spent until after all of the public process has been complete. What we are asking for is provided, first of all, we'll provide some additional information. So our proposed revenue with the tax change is $22,667,562, which is $500,418 more than our current property tax revenue would be generated. This excludes new growth because we don't know those numbers yet, and that could impact some of this. Our current property tax rate is 0.001328. The impact of that $500,000 is a 2.26% property tax increase for residents. For a primary residence with an average value of $549,800, which is the average home in our city this year, it's $8.96. So it's about 70 cents a month. That primary residence value will be updated in the next month. We just haven't gotten it yet from the assessor's office, so we have to use what we had last year. A business pays 100%. It's not a discounted rate, and so therefore the impact to a business of that same value is $16.30. This is not per month. This is for the entire year. And so the things that we are going to review in the property tax impact schedule are the things that are requested with that $500,000. These items will just sit until September 1st, which is the date that all things will have been decided by you. So our Parks Department has requested that we hire one full-time Parks maintenance worker and one full-time Parks planner. If the Parks planner is approved, they are willing to give up 3 of their seasonal laborers to help fund that position partially. And then the rest of it's in the property tax increase. I went a little further on our property tax impact schedule. This is all that is required by the legislation, but I felt it important for the public to know a little more about what is a parks planner and what would they do and why do you need another parks maintenance worker? So there is some request detail on the schedule that assists the public in understanding why that request is being made. The police department manages our crossing guard program with over 200 crossings that they manage. Currently, it's being done by an officer, and we would like to put that officer back into the police department and put a supervisor in place. We did have a supervisor many years ago, and we had a reduction in force during COVID around 2021 and 2021. And this position was eliminated, so we're requesting for it to come back now. Again, that request detail provides you a lot more information, but that request is $100,793. Now that is salary and full family benefits, which is what we assume will be taken, but sometimes it's a single person. Yes?
My understanding on the crossing guard supervisor is that we had somebody doing that already, just because I happen to know her. So is she?
She's probably
like
assisting.
She's a community.
Community service officer.
Community service officer, but
Yeah.
she's in charge of the crossing guards. What's the differentiation? Am I misunderstanding?
Yes, and that is part of the problem, is a lot of people assume she's the supervisor over the crossing guard. She's a CSO, the supervisor over the crossing guards is a police sergeant. It's inefficient to have a sergeant supervising the crossing guards. We've had some challenges with the CSO, working with and coordinating the crossing guards, and this would create a formal crossing guard supervisor position. The person you're referring to may apply for it, may be qualified for it, but that's not their role at the moment. They're functioning in a coordinating role, but they're not the supervisor, a sergeant supervising. And we're having to pull that sergeant off of a lot of other duties that only sergeants and officers can do. A crossing guard supervisor can be a civilian role, and so we'd like to make that change. We think it will make us more efficient.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Our next request is from the Events Department, and we would like to propose a new annual summer event titled Beat Days that would be not at the same time as Western Stampede. And so in order to do that, we're asking for $100,000. That change, probably Beat Days would not occur in the fiscal year, would likely be immediately after the next fiscal year, but this would help prepare and buy some of the supplies and get some of the advertising and some of the prep work for us to launch that kind of an event. And so there's a $100,000 request to support Beat Days.
Denise?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're
Thanks,
fine.
Jessica. I have a quick question about Beat Days. So you were saying that it was going to be in the next years. So does that mean it's slated for the fall time?
It's, we are thinking about August of 2027.
Oh, I see.
So
I
we
see.
would have to like ramp up
This is
this
prep.
year.
Got it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So
Got
it'd
it.
be
Thanks.
early next fiscal year for the full launch.
I thought you were saying it would like be later this year, but that it was like a cutoff point, but I understand now. Thanks.
You're welcome. Our next request is an upgrade of a position that is currently vacant. So we would take a police officer one position and transform it into a police lieutenant's position. And the explanation is provided. They really just feel like their current supervisory structure is lacking right now, and they need one more person in command. So that's this item. And we can talk about these, especially, it would be really good to talk about these during our work sessions starting next week, when each department is in front of you, and you can kind of talk about those requests so that you understand them a little better. The Passport Department is requesting that we eliminate 2 part-time positions and instead fund a full-time position. There's currently 1 full-timer that works in our Passport office, and as you know, it's a very busy office, busier than anywhere else. And they only have one full-time person, and it's difficult for that person to take any leave time or sick time or walk away from that position and have there be coverage in the Passport office. So we're requesting that additional change. This covers, again, family benefits for that position, not knowing who will fill that role. And the last one is the City Recorder and Customer Service Department. We're seeing that there is a lot of need for some assistance in customer service at the Public Works Building on the west side. And so we are asking that we hire 1 full-time customer service rep that will be assigned to the Public Works Building and provide the same level of service that's provided here at City Hall. They'll be able to take utility payments, schedule dumpsters, rent out hydrant meters, do all of the things that we're able to do here at the Public Works Building to kind of serve that west side of our community and provide that same level of service at another highly visible location for the city. That position is allocated between like all of the funds. So everybody kind of contributes to a customer service rep because it takes all the payments for every department. It does work for all departments. It answers the phone for all departments. And so the impact to the general fund is only $31,195. But the impact is larger. It's just spread out between all utilities and development services and the other funds. Okay? So that ends what we are asking for in the property tax impact schedule, what's been included in the mayor's budget that you'll be accepting tonight, proposed with a property tax increase of 2.26%. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Steck. I appreciate the transparency, and I know other residents do, so they can get some insight as to why increases happen. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to have a motion for resolution number 26026, acknowledging the budget officer stated the proposed budget includes a proposed property tax increase and presented a property tax impact schedule. Councilmember Lamb?
I move to approve resolution number 26-026.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Jacob, second the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, if there is no more discussion, let's have a vote. Ms. Quick, a vote, please.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Chair Bador,
Yes.
Acting Chair Wignall,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Thank you. I show the motion passes 6-0.
Great.
Okay, we will move on to business item C, resolution number 26-027, acknowledging the filing of the mayor's proposed budget for the city of West Jordan, Utah for fiscal year 2027. Item 4C is the presentation of the mayor's proposed budget. We have Ms. Steck here again for a presentation of the budget, following which we will consider resolution number 26-027, which acknowledges the filing of the mayor's budget with the council. This resolution does not act as an adoption of the budget. I hope you wore comfortable shoes tonight.
I know. Thank you. All right, this is new that we're proposing a resolution to accept the budget, but under the new mandates of the legislature, they're asking us to acknowledge it in full. In the beginning of the budget is a mayor's message, and the mayor speaks in his message about riding his bike between West Jordan City and St. George, and some of the things that he experiences on that ride, that he sees different things, he sees different perspectives, he talks to all kinds of different people and receives different opinions on items that are in his daily work life. And that he makes small adjustments as he sees those challenges in front of him or listens to others and their experiences and opinions. And so I believe that this is a philosophy that the council has also followed through with small adjustments so that there's nothing that's reactive, but instead proactive moving forward. So on the mayor's message, the last statement says, like any good ride, this budget is about reading the road in front of us and making smart, steady choices. It keeps West Jordan stable, prepared, and moving forward with confidence. And you can see my little mayor on the bike there because he's not here tonight. Included in the budget, as we've worked over time to develop a budget that's very transparent, that's forward-facing, that always takes into account our financial responsibility and sustainability. We've included 5-year financial forecasts for almost all of the funds. There are a few that you can't do that, like kind of development services. That's a little more difficult to do, like what are permits going to be over 5 years? I'm not quite sure what that looks like. But for the majority of the funds, there's a 5-year financial forecast. We're making small adjustments as needed, not just because we decide to make them, but because they're supportive of those similar small adjustments in the future. We're presenting to a balanced budget, and we're presenting to a budget that has responsible levels of reserves in it. What we're going to go over is our total budget. So not so much the general fund information, but as a whole, what does our budget look like? And I thought that this was pretty insightful in that our number one revenue source for the city in general is charges for service, meaning someone is receiving something and what they're paying for whatever they're receiving. Not so much police services or those kinds of things, but water service and sewer treatment and stormwater systems and roads and all of those kinds of things. So charges for services are based on a charge and then a receipt. So that includes permits, that includes a street light fee, that includes all those things, okay? That's 44% of our total budget. The next greatest revenue stream is taxes, right? So that's our property tax, that's our sales tax. The sales tax is the highest level of revenue under the tax category followed by property tax, and then franchise taxes, which are other taxes into the city. Category of taxes does not include transfers in from the water fund. Those are all net of each other in this kind of presentation because it's the funds just moving money between themselves. And so this is all external revenue. Grants and intergovernmental funds is our third revenue stream. Other sources, license and permits, and I apologize, I called those out in charges for services and forgot they were separate. Fines and forfeitures, and then other miscellaneous revenue. Miscellaneous revenue tends to be our interest revenue as well. So we have $185 million this year coming in revenue for the total budget overall, outside of any transfers in or out. The expenses for the budget, again, this is kind of insightful as well. You would think that our number one expense is personnel, and it is in the general fund. It tends to be about 70% weighted there. But when you look at overall, all of the funds and everything that's coming in together and everything that we spend on, it's operations that costs us the most. And that's purchasing water, that's paying our garbage collectors, that's paying for sewer treatment. That is all of those operational costs there. Personnel is second at 33%, and then infrastructure. This number will vary based on what kind of projects we have coming right now. But right now we have $66.2 million under this category. Some of the infrastructure projects are called operations when we perform them ourselves. So you'll see in a few minutes, I'm going to show you all of the projects, and it's over $72 million of projects, but that includes things that we do ourselves as well. So they're not included in that infrastructure line. Debt service, we only have a couple of bonds outstanding. We finished paying off the stormwater bond this year, so we don't have that anymore. We have a water bond, and we have the MBA bond in here. And then other sources, or I'm sorry, other uses. Those are transfers out. So when someone asks you, what is West Jordan's budget? What they're asking for is the greater of the revenue or expense number. In this budget, the expense is the larger number. So West Jordan's budget for this year will be $228,608,872. So you can say, I represent a budget of about $229 million, okay? Council, this is the guiding priorities that you worked on in the budget retreat with the mayor. And the mayor was very cognizant of them as we prepared the budget together and are proposing things. So we're going to go through each of these guiding priorities and highlight some of the things in the budget that are focused on these. We're not focusing on things we are already doing because those are expected now, but things that are new and will lift up these guiding priorities and provide more support to them. So resident focused, the customer service rep at the Public Works Building, that's up to the tax increase. There's a software called Community Connect that we are requesting in the budget. It's for the police department, and it's end-to-end community and engagement. So it allows a resident to be able to know where their case is or where their file is in the process and regularly checks back in and out with them. There's another police software called Axon Fusus, which is a real-time operations and intelligence for coordinated response. So it coordinates all the body cameras and the response times and dispatch all in the same time and allows for a more coordinated response by the command staff. We are going to be returning a grant. We haven't been given, we're given it unlimited, but we are saying no this year to an Attorney General Office grant. They would give us $80,000 in exchange for an officer to be assigned to a task force for the Attorney General's office. It has been providing some really good training and opportunity for those officers. However, we feel like it's not worth the $80,000 that we're giving up. So we would like our officer to come back into police services full-time, and that we will turn down that grant this year. So it's removed out of the budget. We're asking for a crossing guard supervisor. We're asking for beat days, which we believe will be a great family event. We're asking for some cash receipting software, which will support our new move to Workday and our utility billing system. So it will allow for easier cash receipting on the residents' interface as well as the city. And $72.6 million in infrastructure projects, which again will lift up our city and provide better services for our residents. Sense of community, Beat Days is one of those for our city identity. You asked for a rodeo arena land use study. That has been proposed in the budget as well at $100,000. And the infrastructure projects also provide us an identity. It lifts up our city a little bit higher. City aesthetics, we're asking to add the parks maintenance worker, the parks planner. We have $15.6 million in park projects and $9 million in pavement maintenance. Again, beautifying our city as we move forward. Economic development, putting in some of the infrastructure needed to support that development moving forward. So yes, developers are required to put in infrastructure on their system or their project improvements, but on the system improvements that connect to those, we're responsible for them. We have $18.4 million in road projects, $17.7 in water projects, which include new reservoirs to support some of the development on the west side, $1.7 million in sewer system projects, and $6.7 million in stormwater projects, again, including some new projects that developers will be assisting us with on the west side for the new terrain development. Employee satisfaction is the fifth pillar, and some of the things that are included are a 2% cost of living increase for our employees, the opportunities for career advancement, so moving from like a water operator 1 to a water operator 2, those kinds of moves. We do a competitive market adjustment each year. That is pretty minimal this year because we have stayed competitive with the market. We utilize our COLAs and our merit plan and our ranges, and we've found that we've stayed pretty competitive over the years in the last 4 years. We have a competitive but affordable benefit plan for our employees. We have an on-site clinic, which you've continued to fund, and we appreciate a wellness plan and an employee appreciation and recognition program. So some of our challenges in this budget, I know that as I've watched a couple of cities present budgets and property tax increases that are much greater than ours, they're receiving a lot of pressure and saying, well, the governor said sales tax is going to increase by 3.9% next year. Well, last year he said 5%, and I appreciate his optimism. As a governor, that's what I want from him, right? I want to move forward. But last year we did not receive 5% sales tax growth, and I don't anticipate we'll get 3.9%. We have not seen that in the last 5 years. So this is our 1% dedicated local option tax. This doesn't include the 5th of the 5th and the 4th of the 4th and all these extra little taxes. But this is really our stable source of revenue for the city. And you can see here that it has barely moved. And that's the reality of where we sit. We also have a population component in our sales tax revenue, and we just received those population numbers, and we were hopeful that our population moved a little bit, but it only moved 80 residents, which was a little surprising. So what we're going to see is that other cities who may have grown a little more will get a bigger piece of that pie, and our pie piece will shrink. So that also affects our sales tax revenue over time.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Sorry, one more. Councilmember Jacob?
Sorry, Denise,
No?
this slide gives me, it makes me stop and think.
Yeah.
A couple of slides before this one made me stop and think, and that's what's making me stop and think on this one, is that economic development was now road projects, water projects, sewer projects, and sales tax isn't going up. Well, color me shocked, because economic development is generally, in my mind and in the people I represent's mind, it's to increase sales tax revenue because it brings in places that collect sales tax. So this, anyway, just the way that we're calling, economic development has been a buzzword for every campaign for city government I've ever seen. Right? Everybody who's ever ran for anything in the city, anywhere, not just in our city, they always say, oh, economic development, and they have never meant a water tank or a sewer line or, road projects. I see how you can kind of dovetail those under there if you want to play that, but it's showing right here that if that's our economic development focus, then we need to refocus.
I'm hopeful that some of our economic activity would not have been presented in this because it's in the redevelopment agency, with some of the movement that we're going to make with property acquisitions and trying to move that forward, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay, just wanted to kind of get that.
There is not a specific incentive or motivation outside of the great new economic development director that we've hired.
I was going to say, I
And
see
we
him
have good
out
things, yeah, we have good things expected. But as far as like saying, hey, we've set aside $500,000 to spur economic development in whatever way, right? Is it a campaign for our city, or is it a assistance for certain development types, or those kinds of things? Most of that activity will be in the redevelopment agency.
Yeah,
But yes.
that's a whole nother discussion that I am eager to have, so thanks.
Great. All right, another challenge is our property tax to the price index, right? So as you see in this slide, the blue is the baseline tax for each of the fiscal years, property tax. The little yellow sliver there is new growth. So that's what we actually received during the year, or what we anticipate receiving. And then that little blue sliver on the top is the actual increase each year. So it kind of shows you each year, where was our CPI in March, which is typically when we're kind of closing down the budget numbers, compared to what the tax increase was proposed going forward. There have been years when we've been below, there's been years when we've been a little higher than the CPI because we're wanting to add something, right? We want to add an officer, we want to add something else that's a higher level of service. But this year, the tax increase being proposed is 2.26, and CPI in March of 2026 was 3.14. Again, a challenge, inflation, right? Gas prices have gone through the roof. That has impacted us tremendously and will continue to impact us as long as those prices stay that high. You can see the hills and valleys in this chart. You go from a 2.87 to a 4.9 in 1 month, and then it drops again. It's pretty volatile, and it's volatile right now, but right now it's at 3.14%. We anticipate April numbers to be hitting closer to 4% with the price of fuel. The longer this goes on, the more the price of goods goes up because everyone starts to pass it on. Changes to the budget or increases to the budget, what you'll see is a 2% cost of living, including to the crossing guards and our part-timers. That was a request from a few years ago, and we've continued that moving forward. There's been a 10% increase in our health premium, a 10% increase in our workers' comp premium, and a 10% increase in fleet O&M for fuel inflation. Those were only in targeted departments, but that's about what we saw in the comparison moving forward. Other changes to the budget. One of these changes is there's no money differential, but you'll see it spread out differently. So risk management is about a $1.1 to $1.2 million premium each year for our property insurance, for liability insurance, for all those things, right? Claims, they all go into that premium. Cyber insurance. It had been just taken out of non-departmental, and as a result of being a non-departmental, it would report as non-government or government expense, looking like our overhead for general government, which is typically my department, the city council, the mayor's department, the city attorney, is inflated, and that's really not the case because most of the insurance is for public works or streets or parks or police or fire. So we did an allocation method to put that expense out into the departments now so that those departments' full service cost is borne in the department and reported in the department for the service level. So no increase, just moved and changed to where it's reporting. We have a philosophy that we have talked about in the past that our new growth money is diverted into 4 things. One is a new police officer, a new firefighter for a future fire station, a streets worker, and a parks worker. Those have been like kind of the long-term plan. However, we know we don't need to add that staff every year, but there are moments when we have to make that lift. What we're doing for our future firefighters is we are saying we're setting that aside as ongoing money. That's an ongoing request for an expense. We're moving it into the CIP fund at one time, but that way, when we pull the trigger on that fire station, it's not going to be a shock to our system, and we won't have to do a dramatic tax increase to fund the staff for the fire station. We do not know when that fire station will be needed. We're watching our calls for service to see when it's needed, but we do know that that money is set aside, used for a good purpose in the meantime to support our residents, but won't provide a huge tax increase at a later call for service. Right now, we're in year 3, so that's $450,000 or 3 firefighters. All right, this is the list of capital projects. I think I've gone through most of them already in previous slides, but it equals $72.6 million for all kinds of different things that we're doing in the city, in public services and public works. You can see that there's a lot of work going on right now. For utility fees, we are not proposing a water rate increase. We also don't have a water rate increase in our 5-year plan. We feel like it's sustainable at the level it is. Now, it does not mean that it won't be moving forward. I don't know how people will react in this new environment that we're in under a drought, right? Hopefully, our education and campaigns will allow them to use less water, but that will mean less revenue for us. And what are our needs going forward? We don't know. So we've kind of held it steady with some assumptions of reduced water use, but again, we don't know what that is. We do know, we did discuss with the mayor and others that there are some cities that are doing some rates related directly just to the drought to try and influence behavior through financial consequences. We are hopeful, and the mayor is supportive of conservation efforts and education over financial consequences and control. So he's not proposing a water rate increase. The stormwater increase, there is no increase in that fund as well. There's new legislation for charges for services that are requiring us to change the name of the fund of our streetlight fund. So we've had a streetlight fund, and that fund has been, you know, a flat rate for everybody. So Target pays the same amount as Chair Wignall, right? So they pay $3, she pays $3, and everybody pays $3. That is not allowed under the new legislation. The streetlight fee is now considered a transportation utility fee, and it cannot be applied flat across the city. There'll need to be something that says this is how this fee was applied. That requirement is a study that should be done by July 1st of 2027. So in 2027, we will change the fee structure moving forward, but for this fiscal year, we're going to keep it at a flat rate. We're going to ask for a 4% increase, which is 13 cents per month. We're going to rename the fund to the Transportation, Streetlights in parentheses, Utility Fund, and again, do the study. And that study has been funded in this year's budget, so that it will be complete before next year. We're requesting a 5% increase in sewer. That's $1.37 per month plus whatever volume is utilized. We are going to see a lot of pressure from the EPA on some new requirements, and our treatment plant has reached its lifespan, and so we have a strategy moving forward, but that will require incremental increases to the sewer fund. And then the solid waste fund is a 5.5% increase, or $1.29 per month, because we know that we are going to have to be negotiating a new collection contract over the next year, as well as the new fees for a transfer station for moving our waste to a location that's further away. We know that that cost increases there as well.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. Just because I haven't seen this before tonight, I'm going to have lots of questions, probably. The water rate no increase is catches me a little bit by surprise, because I know the wholesale rate's going up by 4-point-something%. And we're just going to absorb that without, we can absorb that? I just pulled up last year's budget, and it anticipates a 3.5% increase every year for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna fall behind from last year's projections by now 7-point-something%, because we're not doing a 3.5%, and our wholesale rate's still going up by 4%.
Right.
So help me understand how we can do a water utility with no fee increases.
So we do have a 5-year plan filled with the projects that are required, and we were cognizant of the fund balance and reserves in the water fund. And so we want to make sure that as we bring a budget forward, that those reserves are at an appropriate level, and we felt like they were, and that they could sustain themselves over time. Again, the unknown is if we don't sell water, right? This year, we sold 20% more water than we anticipated selling. So there was a ton more revenue stream coming in than we'd anticipated. And a lot of that was in the upper tiers during summer months. So again, we're getting more revenue for the exact same water, right? But it really is based on the reserve level in that fund and how we felt like, as we reviewed it, that it could sustain those projects moving forward at its current rate. But if people don't buy water, and we don't buy water, like, how does that look? This will be an interesting year for us to analyze that moving forward.
Yeah, it kind of strikes me as a diversion from the policy that we've had for the last several years of building in small adjustments so that we don't get caught with our water pants down, so to speak, in future years. In last year's budget, with the 3.5% rate increase baked into each of the next 5 years, the reserve fund still goes down for the next 3, the reserve balance, even with increases now built in. Now, this year we sold more, so there's a kind of a little bit of a surplus in there, more than we might have expected because it was a dry year. But now we have an active campaign to sell less.
Yeah.
Right? We make this joke in the Conservancy District all the time about how it's really hard to go out and get bonds when you have an entire department of your company donated or expressly focused
"Don't buy
on
from us."
reducing sales. It's
It's
an
like
ongoing
Target standing outside saying, "Don't buy from us."
right, saying really curb consumerism, right? That's really what it's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems like quite a diversion from our past practices, not only in the water fund, but along with property taxes and other things, to make continual small adjustments in order to not get caught unawares in the future and have to do, like we did several years ago, a 30 or 40% water rate increase.
We are bringing a water rate study to you, to one of your work sessions, likely June 9th. And that will allow you to look at, all right, which we did 5 or 6 years ago in 2019, 2020, when we looked at, right, where the amount of water residents were using comparable to the amount of water we're purchasing, right? So are they contributing? If they're using 60% of our water, are they paying for 60% of the total water fund, right? Are those rates in a good place? I know that I've heard, are we looking at landscape meters and their rates differently than we'd be looking at residential meters? Again, you have to have a discussion between you of, well, aesthetics is important, but so is water. So what does that look like? So I think that that's going to be a healthy discussion for you. We have the utility review on June 9th, but certainly that discussion can come up earlier. If you would like to adjust the water rate, but at this point, the mayor is proposing a budget to you that he felt like the reserves were sustainable for that 5-year period.
Okay, ditto, by the way, for stormwater, everything that I just said, except for the, Department of Reduction of Sales.
Councilmember Harris?
Yeah, Denise, I'm just curious, can I find information about the reserves in this budget?
Yes.
That's in front of me? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
So each of the funds, you'll see that the budget is there, and at the bottom, you'll say reserves. So it'll say beginning reserves, and then the change in reserves from the budget, and then the ending reserve levels there. So yes, you will be able to see those. And that's really different. That's something that we do for you because we feel like it's important for you to make those long-term decisions based on reserves. A lot of councils only receive budgets that have revenue and expense, and they're balanced. But I really feel like for you to see what are the reserve levels and what is your reserve policy. Is it that you want 50% of the total revenue of a utility to be the reserves, or is it, something less than that or something more than that? In the general fund, we're restricted on those reserve levels by the legislature. They say that we can only have up to 35% and no less than 5%. So there's a lot of ways for us to look at reserves as to what those reserve levels are, and we certainly could work through a reserve policy, which is a best practice as well, and we haven't done that. So that would be something that we could do, is say that, hey, our best practice or our target for utilities is a reserve of this percentage of revenues. Okay, budget terms. This is something that's a little newer or adds another new flavor to this. So I gave you columns here. The mayor's budget was developed by the mayor and department heads. The date that is being presented is May 5th. It's filed with the council. The mayor does not have a veto power on this, and the property tax increase has been proposed in the mayor's budget. The next thing that will happen is this becomes a tentative budget. So once you adopt it on June 9th, with whatever changes you discuss or want to amend, so it'd be amending the mayor's budget or putting something new in it and making a tentative budget that is adoptable by you. That will happen on June 9th. You adopt it by resolution, which is a little different than the annual budget. The mayor does not have veto power on the tentative budget either. And if you choose to include a property tax increase and support property tax increase. Now, again, you can change anything. You can change what's funded with a property tax increase or not funded with property tax increase. I'll play a game. You say, I really support the crossing guard supervisor. I don't want it under truth and taxation. I want that funded no matter what. I'm going to take out of the budget X, whatever will be equal to that so that the budget is funded, right? So you can do whatever you want with changing around what is included in the property tax increase and what is not. This is the mayor's best plan moving forward, and it's supported by the department heads. But within you as a legislative body, you discuss what that next step is. So if you tend to move forward at the tentative level to truth and taxation, we now go into an interim budget. So we move towards that. If you do not include a property tax increase, you say, no, we're not supportive of a property tax increase this year. You strip all of those things out of the budget, and we just move straight into the annual budget. So you don't need to do an interim budget, and we don't need to do truth and taxation. The next step is on June 23rd, all of your work and your discussion needs to be done, and you need to adopt an interim budget. That will be the latest date that you can do that. You'll adopt it by resolution. It will need to be something that you all agree on and that it will get a majority of support from the council to pass the resolution. Again, the mayor does not have veto power on this particular budget type either. And if it is an interim budget, you have decided to go through truth and taxation in July and August. In July, the county auditor's office does all of their work. They send out the property tax notices. They do all of the public noticing. Cindy does all of her noticing on the city side. And we complete all that work at the beginning of August. Then we work towards an annual budget. We'll hold that public hearing on August 11th, but an annual budget will be adopted on August 25th, whatever that looks like. It can be changed at any time and amended as much as you'd like, okay?
Councilmember Harris?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just have a process question for you, Denise. So in this hypothetical after the tentative budget, if we were to say no about the property tax increase, would the staff then have a chance to try to work in some of the new things into the old budget? You know what I'm saying? Like if we say no, but this crossing guard supervisor is so important and the staff wants to try to move things around to make it work, would there be an opportunity to do that, or would it be completely off the table?
It would not be off the table. You could say that you would want to fund it as a council, but, and it could be with some discussion with department heads if you so choose. But it would not be, you would have to cut something else out of the budget, right? What would you cut to get that in?
I see. Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Any other questions about that? Okay. The annual budget will be adopted August 25th. This is different. This one's adopted by ordinance because the mayor will have veto authority on this budget overall. It will need to be adopted by September 1st, and if no, then it's adopted by June 30th, right? That would be yes, a property tax increase adopted by September 1st, I apologize. No, property tax increase adopted by June 30th. That's the requirement. But honestly, even by September 1st, if you say, we're doing truth in taxation, we're doing truth in taxation, we're doing a tax increase, and then you hear from the public and you decide that that's not something that you want to follow through with, that is your prerogative as well, to make that property tax increase anything. You have until June 23rd to say, well, no, June 9th, to say this is the amount of property tax increase that you're, well, this is so hard because we don't even get real numbers until after the dates. So it's really hard for us to say, but you can say in July or August, we've decided, we've heard from the public, we are not going to do a property tax increase. Well, that means we'll just need to adopt the budget as it stands. So you don't have to do anything. You can go above the mayor's proposed property tax increase if you so choose by June 9th. After that, we will have notified the county of the amount. So we would need the council to decide if there was something they wanted to fund in excess of what's already been proposed or something different, and maybe it pushed it to a 3% property tax increase. That can be done by the council. You are not held to any amount of property tax increase until June 9th, when we really have to declare, okay? All right, work sessions. Additional work sessions can be added as needed, but here's what we intend to do so far. May 12th, next week, we'll start talking about the general fund. Chair Bador has asked that each department head be provided 5 minutes to kind of introduce their changes in the budget to you as a council, and then it's open for your discussion with the department head or anyone else at that point. We'll work over revenues, revenue projections, growth metrics during that May 12th meeting. Likely we'll cover public safety, fire and police. On May 26th, we'll have a second round on the general fund, working in public works and public services, Class C road fund, CIP Highlands and fleet management. June 9th, we'll do another work session on utilities, development services, risk management, IT, and some cleanup stuff. And then June 23rd, we'll call a work session as needed so that you can have a final opportunity to have some really good discussions amongst yourselves without anything else being presented to you during that time period. And again, we can call other dates as well. This is the public hearings on the budget. So we'll have a public hearing on the mayor's budget, right? A budget has to sit available to the public for at least 10 days in its final form before the public comment is allowed. So the mayor's budget's being accepted and available to the public tonight. It will sit and be available to the public until June 9th. At that point, we'll have a public hearing on that budget. You can listen to the public, and that evening, you will adopt a tentative budget. You may change the mayor's budget at that same time, amend it, put whatever changes in there you want. Then it will sit from June 9th until June 23rd. So the new tentative budget will sit. You'll have a hearing on June 23rd on the tentative budget. You'll hear public comment on what they see or have heard, and then you will adopt an interim budget that evening. August 11th will be the property tax increase public hearing. That will be a standalone item. Nothing else will occur on that night. And then August 25th, you will, again, that interim budget is sitting from June 23rd until August 25th. At that point, you'll have a hearing on the interim budget, so you'll hear what the public has to say about what you've adopted on June 23rd, and then you will amend and adopt or adopt an annual budget that night. Okay, so that's the process. All right, so it's time for us all to get to work. I'm excited to work with you to help you understand anything in the budget. I'm available if you want to meet and go over the budget on your own or have questions. You're welcome to call me. But we have a lot of hours that we're going to be spending on this working. So thank you for your time this evening.
Councilmember Jacob?
Just one more quick question if I can. I was waiting till you got to the end to see if it was covered. The very beginning, you showed revenues of 180-something million and expenditures of 220-something million. Help me understand.
Absolutely. So we're upside down, mostly because of our CIP fund, right? So the projects that we're doing are drawing reserves in our CIP fund. You're not drawing reserves in the general fund. You're not drawing on reserves in a lot of places. But some places there are reserves that are needing to be drawn. One of them is Development Services Fund. Our estimate this year is that Development Services will need an influx of general fund money to kind of lift it up to the level where it will have almost a zero fund balance or reserve, which tells us, and we expected, in fact, it's held its own longer than we thought it would, that there are often times where permit revenue generation might not pay for the department as a whole for 1 year, and the general fund will influx the money. And there will be years when you get lots of permits and it's flush with cash. And that's why I think it gets so much pressure from the state auditor and legislators that, you know, permits are making cities rich. Well, if you saw the ebb and flow, you have to have professional staff. You need to maintain that professional staff. They're really important to be there when we do need them. But the ebb and flow of the type of permits that are issued, or, you know, single-family permits aren't as expensive as an industrial permit or a data center or some other things. So I think that this is just one of those years that we're going to see a little bit of dip. But we might get surprised, right? It's spring and it's construction season, so something might come in. But that is why we're drawing down $40 million in reserves
Capital projects.
in the capital projects budget. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll leave you to your resolution.
Thank you again, Ms. Steck. So tonight's action is simply a formal receipt of filing for the mayor's proposed budget. This is the start of the process, and we have several work sessions, as Ms. Steck mentioned, scheduled for in-depth discussion. Are there any initial questions regarding the filing itself? Councilmember Shelton?
I was just going to make a motion. Should
Go
I do
ahead.
that? I move to approve resolution number 26-027, acknowledging the receipt of the mayor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2027.
Councilmember Harris?
I second the motion.
Fantastic. If there are no more questions, sorry. There is no more discussion. Ms. Quick, can we get a vote?
Acting Chair Wignall.
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton.
Yes.
Chair Bador.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Thank you. I show the motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, this was the last item on in this meeting, and I see no further business. I declare this meeting adjourned.